Om. 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 अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ब्रह्मानन्दं परमसुखदं केवलं ज्ञानमूर्तिं द्वन्द्वातीतं गगनसदृशं तत्त्वमस्यादिलक्ष्यम्। एकं नित्यं विमलमचलं सर्वधी साक्षिभूतं भावातीतं त्रिगुणरहितं सद्गुरुं तं नमामि। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। ओम श्रीराम जय राम जय जय राम। ओम श्रीराम जय राम जय जय राम। ओम some time ago during the one of those days where Vasanta Madam had read out some of the great sayings of Omkar Swamiji, which was in the form of a calendar. Now, one of them, it reads, "Find your own happiness by making others happy." This appealed to me, and I thought I should read this out so that we will think of this during our further discourse. Find your own happiness by making others happy. Now, in the meantime, there was somehow my attention fell on one book of Papa, which is Swami Ramdas Speaks, Volume 1. In that, this is the gist of his world travel. In that, Papa is in Switzerland, and that time when he was in Switzerland, people who did not know the language were also welcome. So in that, a questionnaire, a friend who attends this, he says, "My friend does not know English. I have read your book, The Inquest of God. I understand English. This lady wants to know if she could ask a question." Ramdas replies, "Yes." The question is put to him, and that is, how to achieve all that you have mentioned in that book. That book is In Quest of God. So everything starts off with In Quest of God, and let's see what Papa replies. Swami Ramdas. The simple answer is that it all happened by God's grace. It is God's grace that came to him and transformed him. that alone produced the miracle. Our effort is useless. His grace must come to us. Then things happen as they should happen for our uplift and for ultimate illumination and realization. It is not due to our merit. We can turn our mind towards God only if and when He wills. So everything is His will, and ours is only to pray to Him. We must contact His devotees and saints that will quicken our aspiration for Him. So it is emphasized that the primary thing needed for an aspirant is the contact of a God-realized soul. That is what our scriptures also say. It says that anything and everything happens by His will alone, and ours is only to pray to Him. Anyway, let us now proceed with what Papa has to say. We must contact His devotees and saints. That will quicken our aspiration for Him. So it is emphasized that the primary thing needed for an aspirant is the contact of a God-realized soul. Grace can flow to us through saints. What we have to do is only to pray for His grace. That is all we can do, and the rest must be done for us by God. Even the prayer we offer is because He makes us pray. But we do not know this at first. Later on, we come to know that we do everything, even praying, by His grace alone. Otherwise, we have no thought or words to pray. The devotee says, "O God, you have put the words on my tongue for this prayer." In fact, Viveka Chudamani also says that, it says that this three things are essential. One is the birth of the human life, then Manushyatvam, Mumukshatvam, Mahapurusha Samshayaha. These are the three things. Manushyatvam is to get the life as a man or a woman. The second one is that Mumukshatvam is to think about God, to put how to reach Him or how to go about this process to make us go through the various scriptures, various thoughts, various saints, etc. is the second requirement. And the third one is the Mahapurusha Samshraya is to come in contact with people like Anna, like Papa, like Mataji and others who will make us get into the habit of seeing right things, reading right things, and going through our normal routine. So when we look at this, and what makes us do that is these three great things, and that which happens by God's will alone. Now, having said this, now let us look at something which is more practical. There is another piece of information which Papa has said. God is within you. This is the central truth from which you have to start for knowing and realizing Him. You should feel that you are ever living and moving in His being and be aware of His presence with you always. Swami Ramdas. God is within you. This is the central truth from which you have to start for knowing and realizing Him. You should feel that you are ever living and moving in His being and be aware of His presence with you always. Of course, he goes on to say what are the daily points of sadhana that we should do. But let's go through something on a lighter vein. Now, this by chance I happened to open the page and I got this, which I read to you. Find your own happiness by making others happy. Now, there's a small story here. It's called Blue Ribbon. I must have read to you some time back. A teacher in New York decided to honor each of her high school seniors for the difference they made in her life, in the teacher's life. She presented each one of them with a blue ribbon imprinted with gold letters, which read, "Who I am makes a difference." She told the class how each student made a difference to her and the class. Afterwards, the teacher decided to do a class project to see what kind of impact or acknowledgement would have on their community. She then gave each one of her students 3 ribbons and instructed them to go out and spread this blue ribbon ceremony. They were to follow up on the results, see how honored whom, and report back to the class the following week. Very simple. She gave the students 3 blue ribbons and she said that you give it to somebody whom you appreciate. And you have to come back and tell me whom you gave it to and what impact it had. One of the students honored a junior executive in a nearby company for helping him with his career planning. One student, he goes to another place where somebody was helping him to plan his career. The student gave him a blue ribbon and put it on his shirt just over his heart. Then the boy gave him 2 extra ribbons, explained their class project on acknowledgement, and enlisted the executive's help. This junior executive had a boss who was always grouchy and never a word of appreciation or of encouragement. Later that day, for some unknown reason, this junior executive went to his boss and told him, this boss is the one whom he did not like, told him that he deeply admired him for being a creative genius. That is why he says, for some unknown reason, the junior executive went to his boss and told him that he deeply admired him for being a creative genius. The junior executive asked him if he would accept the gift of the blue ribbon and would he give his permission to put it on him. This surprised the boss and he said, well, sure. After placing the ribbon above his boss's heart, he asked him to support the effort of the class project. That night, the grouchy boss went home to his 14-year-old son and sat him down. And he sat with him and he started conversation. He said, the most incredible thing happened to me today. I was in my office and one of the junior executives came in and told me he admired me and gave me this blue ribbon for being a creative genius. Imagine, he himself doesn't believe this. So he says, imagine he thinks I am a creative genius. Then he put this blue ribbon that says, who I am makes a difference on my jacket above my heart. Next, he gave me an extra ribbon and asked me to find someone else to honor. As I was driving home tonight, I started thinking about whom I would honor with this ribbon, and I thought about you, my son. I want to honor you. My days are really hectic, and when I come home, I don't pay any attention to you. Sometimes I scream at you for not getting good enough grades in school or for bedroom being a mess. But somehow, tonight, I just wanted to sit here and, well, just let you know that you do make a difference to me. Besides your mother, you are the most important person on my life. You are a great kid and I love you. Now, this is why I chose this particular story was that find your own happiness by making others happy. This is where it applies. In this particular case, it applies. Like he says, as I was driving home tonight, I started thinking about whom I would honor with this ribbon, and I thought about you. Son, I want to honor you. The startled boy, he didn't expect that his father will come and appreciate him so much. So he was taken aback. He thought, what is happening to my father? And he started to sob and sob. He started crying, and he couldn't stop crying. His whole body shook. He walked over to a drawer, pulled out a gun, started at his father, and through his tears said, I was planning on committing suicide tomorrow, Dad, because I didn't think you loved me. Now, this episode is very simple for us to understand. But what it is that find your own happiness in making others happy. This is the motto behind saying this. So, from where to where, and everything happens by His own grace. And it is nothing else but His grace which works. Papa even goes to the extent of saying, nothing is unimportant, nothing is insignificant, nothing is unwanted, because everything happens by His will and by His will alone. So, with this, now let us move a bit inside our reading. This is, I wanted to talk to you about this. This is, I have read this to you earlier also, and every one of you know it, but it would be, but I thought, because I am reading it to myself most of the time when I come and talk here, it is for me only and for myself. So this is the message of Swami Ramdas, beloved Papa, on the inauguration day of Anand Ashram, which was on 15th May 1931. It is 3-1. It reads, this is what is painted near the Centenary Hall. Outside the Centenary Hall, the photo of Anand Ashram on that particular day, 15th May 1931. He has put this, what he said has been written there also. Let me read this to you. Ramdas has the supreme delight to speak to you today. A few words at the inauguration of this holy ashram. The ideal which the ashram holds before it is universal love and service based upon a vision of divinity in all beings and creatures of the world. Here, every man, woman, or child, to whatever denomination, creed, or caste the person may belong, shall have free access. This is a place where every effort will be made to cultivate the spirit of mutual love and service, so that what is realized within its wall may prove as an example for the right conduct of human life in the outside world. The Lord is our help and guide in all matters. May He, with all His bounty, shower His blessings on the great service which this home of love and bliss has undertaken to discharge. Any number of times we read this, it is not sufficient, because every time you read, it makes us go back and see for ourselves. We have to go back and do a little bit of manana to find out What has happened with us? Have we understood anything from what we read, what we go through, what we do? Now, here is again, I want to read this again so that we can recollect what Papa is trying to tell us. Ramdas has the supreme delight to speak to you today. A few words at the inauguration of this holy ashram. The ideal which the ashram holds before it is universal love and service based upon a vision of divinity in all beings and creatures of the world. Now, here the most important words are universal love and service. This is one. And the second one is based upon the vision of divinity in all beings and creatures of the world. Now, this is what we normally overlook. And every time we go to the ashram, we uh, we are supposed to learn something more every time we look at this and see how we have not been following it. I'm not referring to you when I'm talking we, it is me only, because most of you are much ahead of me in so many things. So, what I meant to say is this. Uh, this is to make it makes us think again and again. The word vision of divinity and all, the moment we say that, it means that he who is seated within our heart, because of whom we are able to speak, because of whom we are able to think, and because of whom we go to the ashram, we go to the saints, we talk to them. Maybe Maybe at times he himself does not facilitate us to do these things, but we should make our best efforts to go there and talk to them, or to listen to what Papa has said, or to follow what this is being done, or mostly to see some people who are much advanced and who are doing human service to everybody. That's the message that Papa is trying to tell us by his words, based upon a vision of divinity in all beings and creatures of the world. Now, although he is now telling, here every man, woman, or child, to whatever denomination, creed, or caste the person may belong, shall have free access. This is a place where every effort will be made to cultivate the spirit of mutual love and service, so that what is realized within its walls may prove as an example for the right conduct of human life in the outside world, or in other words, for our progress in our search for spirituality. Because spirituality is not what we think it is, but it is for us, for Papa, who has told us what spirituality is. We'll go through one or two of his passages, and then we will see how we end up. This is a place where realized in the four walls. That means that so that here, this is a place where every effort will be made to cultivate the spirit of mutual love and service, so that what is realized within its wall may prove an as example for the right conduct of human life outside world. Now, it is not that there will be sermons which will be told to us, or they will tell us you are doing wrong, you are doing this right. It is only by looking at people, by making us come in contact with the devotees who have reached a better place than us, who have graduated a little more than what we have, which our class, we might be sitting in the primary school, whereas they might be in colleges. So those people, when we look at them and see the service that they do, the selfless service that they do, the way they behave with others, yeah, there are so many things we can look at. Now, only thing is we have to keep our eyes and ears open to see what is happening and how these situations are coming about. So again, Papa says, May he, with all his bounty, shower his blessings on the great service which this home of love and bliss has undertaken to discharge. So if we go about and do this self-evaluation, self-knowledge, self-checking ourselves, we will find that we have not been able to progress as much as we should have with all the facilities that were created for us. So that is what Papa has said, and this should remind us that every time we go, we should keep our eyes and ears open to see what is happening with us and how things are happening outside, how things should be done. The main aim is, as Muktanand Swamiji says, me and mine, we are in a stage, most of us are. When I say me, please pardon me, because I cannot say I am, although it applies to me only. I don't mean that all of you are in that much, many of you are in a much higher place when compared to myself. So when I say me and mine, this applies to almost everybody, because we are still in that stage where we have not reached the highest rungs of ladder. The word satsang itself means sat is him. That is sat. And satsang is to stay in touch with him. That is what we are doing. If we understand this, that every day what is happening to us is by sitting here and reading something and hearing something, what we are doing, we are trying to be in touch with him. That is the purpose of this satsang. The very purpose of this is to understand that we are trying to be in his limelight, who will make us look at it. Like he said, it is there, his grace is always there. But we men are in different categories. One is like a rock. Even though the grace is there, it does not allow it to pass through. Like the light, the sun's rays, they don't go through it. Whereas in glass, it just goes through. In a semi-polished surface, some amount will go in. But his grace is ever there. There is no denying that. But we should make ourselves fit to receive that grace. That grace is something which is available to us, and we have to make use of these facilities that God has created. Of course, he himself creates obstructions, maybe for our betterment, maybe for whatever reason, only he knows, that we are unable to use this opportunities to progress in the field of uh, satsang and spirituality. Somewhere else he talks about spirituality, and it is so easy for him to speak, and I don't know whether how far we will be able to receive his goodness or not. But we'll read through that also. Having gone through this much, we'll see what Papa has said uh, about spirituality. Now, for some of the people who have not been to the ashram, I'd like to bring their attention that when we say Papa, it is Swami Ramadas, who was the spiritual head of Anandashram, and his Anandashram is still there, and that you can make out what level he was in when he made the speech in his inaugural speech. Now, what does spirituality mean? That is the question. This is what Papa is telling us. That which relates to the spirit and the experience of the spirit is spirituality. Now, spirit means he is talking about the Atman. which we understand better than spirituality by itself, the spirit. That which relates to the spirit, and the experience of the spirit is spirituality. Spirit and matter are two different things. Our body is material, and the spirit dwelling in this body is spiritual. When you say spirit, it is the Atman. So, whatever relates to the spirit within us is spiritual. We must think, feel, and realize that we are not merely bodies, but we are the immortal spirit. Many people go with the impression that they are only the visible appearance, that is, the body made up of the 5 elements: earth, wind, sun, water, and space. Actually, it is not so. There is a spirit within us. It is that spirit that makes us talk, walk, and do everything. Now, for instance, people think when they give and receive with the hands that they are doing these movements and these actions themselves, as if they have got an independent power to do these things. Let me read this again. Now, for instance, people think when they give and receive with the hands that they are doing these movements and these actions themselves, as if they have got an independent power to do these things. There are so many movements and changes going on within the body, such as the action of the digestive organs, blood circulation, growth of hair, and other things. We cannot say these things are done by me. Can we say I am doing these things? Who is responsible for these movements within us? The same power which is responsible for these inner movements is responsible for the outer movements also. We see the wind blow, the sun gives light and heat, the trees grow, and the birds sing on the trees. So many movements and changes are going on around us. These are not separate movements caused by any power of individual in them working accidentally or by chance, or as they say, due to the conquest of atoms or some such things. They explain away in order to deny the existing of a spiritual power that permeates the entire universe and is responsible for all movements and changes in it. That all-pervading power that makes us act, talk, do everything, if we recognize this universal power and know that that power is responsible for what we do, then our ego will disappear and we will be one with the universal truth and we will be supremely happy. In other words, Papa is also coming back to the same saying where he says, you start, don't use, don't go about me and mine. Go ahead, try to be, try to incorporate, take everybody with you so that you say me instead of me, we say we and ours, not me and mine. So long as this ego in us is within, which makes us feel that we are everything ourselves, we are caught in a trap and we can never be happy. So we have been asked to resign ourselves to the will of God. Will is nothing but the power of God, active in nature and active in ourselves. By surrendering ourselves to the divine power and will, we will realize within us that supreme bliss and peace which is looked upon. Through this, the ego and individual will disappear. People have asked him often, what about the free will and how does it stand in relation to the divine will? Really, there is no free will. There is only divine will working everywhere. It is a mistake to think we have got any power to do anything. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a sloka in which God says, "It is my will and power that prevails through the entire earth, and know that this world means myself causing all movements in it, all changes in it." And so he, at the inception, at the growth of things, and at the destruction of things, it is one power that does know all these things in the universe. And if we submit that power and know that power is active in us, then we will be free from the ego. And that moment we realize that we are the unchanging, immortal, all pervading spiritual and universal truth and spirit. To know that we are that spirit is to know Him. That is God, and this is spirituality. We are left with just 1 minute, so I would like to close this with the starting words which I said. Find your own happiness by making others happy. Hari Om. Om.